ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदादतं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना। श्री Ramakrishna Kathamrita, Sri Ma Kathita. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, recorded by M. Sri Ramakrishna Bhakta Sange, Kamal Kutire, Sri Ramakrishna, Srijukta Keshab Chandra Sen. Sri Ramakrishna in the company of devotees, in Kamal Kutir with Keshab Chandra Sen. ब्राह्म भक्तेरा श्रीयुक्त सामाध्यायी के देखाइया ठाकुर के बोलितेछेन इनी पंडित वेदादि शास्त्र बेश पढ़ियाछेन. Brahma Bhaktas, the devotees, the Brahmo devotees, the followers of the Brahma Samaj, who had accompanied Keshav Chandra Sen, they showed Samadhyayi, one of the acharyas, who used to teach the Brahmo devotees and conduct the upasana in the congregation. Showing him, the Brahmo devotees told Sri Ramakrishna, he is a scholar in a Pandit, Vedadi Shastra Besh Padiyachen. He has studied well the various scriptures, Veda, Vedanta, and so on. Thakur bolitechen, h্যাঁ, এর চক্ষু দিয়া এর ভিতরটি দেখা যাচ্ছে. Said, yes, I can see his inner personality through his eyes. This is the power of the avatar of a person of illumination. He can look into the inside of any person just like we see through a glass. Suppose something is in a glass case, we can see through the glass and see what is inside. So Sri Ramakrishna says, I can see his inside through his eyes. Jamon Sharshir Darjar Bhitor Diya Ghorer Bhitorkar Jinis Dekha Jai. Just like you can see the various things in a house through the glass door. Srijukta Trailokya Gan Gaitechen. Trailokyanath Shannal is a great devotee, and Sri Ramakrishna used to like many of his songs. Gan gaite gaite Shandhar Bati Jala Hoilo, Gan Cholite Laglo. So when he was singing, then it was evening time, Vesper service called Sandhya in Sanskrit. That is the twilight service when day passes into night. When day passes into night at dusk and a night passes into day at dawn, these are called two sandhyas. This is a very common practice in the Hindu religion, that we call on God at junctions between the night and the day, and usually there are two sandhyas: morning when the night passes into day, evening when the day passes into night, and the third one, the third sandhya, is when exactly at midday the sun is at the top and no shadow is cast on the floor. No shadow of yourself is seen. That means the sun is just at the top. Midday, dawn and dusk are three sandhya. In the Tantra, midnight is also considered very auspicious. So midday, midnight, and dawn and dusk are the four sandhyas. Usually three sandhyas are considered, and Annika, spiritual practices, religious practices during these junctions are called Sandhya Vandana or Annika. Pratas Sandhya Vandana, early morning at the dawn. Sayam Sandhya Vandana in the evening at dusk, and Madhyanika when the sun is just at the top, at the midday. No Vedic ritual is performed when the sun sets. All Vedic traditional religious observances have to be performed between dawn and dusk, after sunrise and before sunset. And the tantric rituals, by contrast, begin after sunset and they finish before sunrise. Tantra, in a sense, is a revolt against the Vedas. When the Vedic ritualism was caught in several complicated practices, and the authority of the Brahmanical priestcraft became supreme, and the Brahmanical priestcraft denied the eligibility to be able to chant the Vedas, even Om, Sandhya Vandana, study of Vedas, to Stri and Shudra. Women and Shudras, lower castes, are not eligible for the study of the Vedas or the chanting of Om. That was not in the Vedas themselves. The Vedas themselves had so many rishis, rishikas who are women, and several lower castes also were exposed to the Vedas. Later on, when the degenerate priestcraft authority came into existence, then this practice of denying the eligibility for the study of the Vedas to the Shudras and to women became prominent. Then came a revolt against this in the form of tantras. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavan says, Brahmanas, of course, will get are eligible to get the highest realization, but those that are devoted to God through bhakti, even women and Shudras also can attain. Striyo Vaishyas Tatha Shudras Tepi Adi Param Gatim. Three women, Shudras and Vaishyas, relatively lower castes in the Hindu social hierarchy, they also can attain the highest wisdom. Remember, these castes are only social hierarchy. They have nothing to do with religion or spirituality. Unfortunately, when religion came to be associated with the caste, degeneration started, and so many reform movements also came. Sri Ramakrishna, like Sri Chaitanya earlier, solved the problem of religious hierarchy, religious don't-touchism. Even Muslims were admitted in the Hindu fold because any devotee of God has the authority, has the eligibility to chant religious texts. Sri Ramakrishna said, Bhakter kono jaat nahi. Devotees have no caste. The only caste which the devotees know, that I am a devotee of God. A Brahmin is a devotee of God, and a Vaishya, a Shudra, or a Kshatriya is also equally a devotee of the same God. And therefore, there can't be any casteism in religion. This casteism is a purely social custom, just like various political parties, for example. But the common principle in India, for example, is democracy. So whatever party you belong to, you be devoted to the ideal, devoted to the country, the sovereignty and the secular state of the country, and respect the national flag and the Constitution of India and so on. Similarly, whatever be the caste you belong to, you can and should be devoted to God, of whatever form or whatever name. And all the devotees of God belong to a single caste which is called devotee. Bhakta. Bhaktir kono jaat nahi. So in Sri Ramakrishna Sampradaya, following Sri Ramakrishna himself, later on Swami Vivekananda, Brahmananda, Ramakrishna, and so on, all the castes are treated equally. Everybody has the eligibility to enter the temple and offer worship and receive mantra diksha, religious initiation through a mystic syllable called the mantra from the Guru, who is authorized by the Ramakrishna tradition. This is the liberalism which existed in India during the Vedic times but got degenerate later on because of the authority of the priest craft. It is the authority and the claim of superiority, saying that I belong to a superior caste which has created so much of havoc in Hinduism. Swami Vivekananda once said, remove these caste distinctions from the religion and you have the grandest religion in Hinduism. And unfortunately, many people, the so-called reformers, associate the Hindu religion with casteism. A religion has nothing to do with caste. What is the caste to which God belongs? God has no caste, and the devotee of God also has no caste. As long as you have devotion to God, you are equal to everybody else who is also a devotee. So he says, the Tantra was a revolt against it, against those caste distinctions, denial of rights to Shudras and to women. So they said, instead of Om, which they are not eligible to chant, the Pranava Bija mantra, they started chanting Hreem, which they call the Maya Bija, which is the Bija sacred in Tantra, the Bija of the Shakti. And Swami Vivekananda combined Om and Hreem, the famous hymn, Om Hreem Ritam Tvamachalo Gunajid Gunedya, the famous hymn, Stotra, which Swami Vivekananda wrote in Sanskrit, chanted every day during the Sandhya Arati, evening Vesper service, begins with Om Hreem. Swami Vireshwarananda used to point out how Swami Vivekananda remembered the Shakti of Brahman along with Sri Ramakrishna, who was the embodiment of Brahman. Brahman and Brahma Shakti are non-different. Ishvara being Ishvara Shakti Abhinna. Brahma Shakti Abhinna. They are non-different. They are identical. And whenever Brahman is invoked, the Shakti of Brahman should also be equally invoked. Brahma, Brahma Shakti Abhed. So he began this stotra, the wonderful stotra, the hymn, with the lines, Om Hreem Ritam Tvamachalo. Ritam is truth and the cosmic order which runs the whole universe. Achala, unshaking, steady, immovable, immutable, infinite. It is Gunajit and Gunedyaha. It is beyond the gunas and worshipped through gunas. So this is the line with which he begins this stotra. And Hreem is the Maya Bija, sacred to the Tantras. Since Vedic rituals are performed between dawn and dusk, between sunrise and sunset, the Tantric rituals are performed between sunset and sunrise. When the sun sets, the tantric rituals like Kali Puja begin, and they are completed before sunrise. It is just a kind of revolt against, a rebellion against the Vedic ritualistic tradition of claiming superiority and therefore denying the rights of Vedic chanting and worship to Shudras and to women. This is just by the way. Sandhyar Bati Chala Hoilo, Gan Cholite Lagilo. So I was mentioning about Sandhya and Ramakrishna's very initial statement in the Kathamrita, Sandhya Gayatri te loy hoy, Gayatri avar Onkare loy hoy. The most sacred mantra which a Brahmin boy chants during the Sandhya, Trisandhya, Pratas Sandhya in the morning, dawn, Sayam Sandhya at dusk in the evening, and Madhyanika during midday, the Brahmin boy chants the Gayatri mantra, which is the most sacred mantra. And the whole of Sandhya merges into Gayatri. Sandhya can also mean all the various works in the world, the karma which you do, ritualistic karma, the Vedic rituals, traditional practices, all of them merge into Gayatri. That means prayer. All the various rituals like puja, for example, you cultivate your devotion through puja. You gather flowers and apply sandal paste and arrange for puja, complicated mantras you chant and so on. And all the rituals ultimately merge into Gayatri prayer. So you don't go for external rituals. You close your eyes and internally you meditate upon God and pour your heart's agony, worry, love, devotion to the God in your heart. Hridaya kamala madhye rajitam nirvikalpam sada sada khila bhedatitam ekaswarupam prakriti vikriti shunyam nityam anandamurtim vimala paramahamsam Ramakrishnam bhajamaha. Pour your heart's devotion through prayer, through Gayatri. I meditate upon the supreme light of consciousness, that Savitur Varenyam Bhargaha, the worshipful Varenyam Bhargaha light of the Savitra, the sun which is symbolic of the supreme Brahman, the light of consciousness. Dhimahi, meditate upon that. Dhyoyo naf prachodayat. May that supreme consciousness awaken in me the Dhi. The Dhi is called Medha. It is also called Pragya. It is also called the higher Buddhi, the intuitive, higher awareness, intelligence, which is capable of revealing to you the spiritual truths. The ordinary intellect by which you pass examinations, by which you get medals and laurels, are not sufficient to enable you to penetrate into the mysteries of the great scriptures. Spiritual truths have to be intuited through a higher intelligence. There are many people who are very intelligent, scientists and engineers and literary scholars and so on. But when it comes to spiritual truths, however much they listen and study, they are unable to understand the essence of these scriptures. Why? Because the higher intelligence, Medha, Dhi, has not been awakened. from the point of view of the Shatchakra, Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, the lower three chakras, as long as the mind dwells there, you are in the realm of sensuality, eating and drinking, sensual pleasures and so on. And when the Kundalini power rises to Anahata, the heart, then you see a mysterious light, uncreated light. Hear a mysterious mystical sound, Om, the unstruck sound, and there occurs the awakening of the Dhi. The awakening of the Dhi opens the door to the understanding of spiritual truths. You immediately intuit whenever you read a spiritual book, the Gita, Upanishads, Ramakrishna, Kathamrita, and so on, immediately you can catch the cadence of these books, cadence of the Vedas and Vedanta, and you can resonate with the rhythm which is there in that book. You say, yes, this is true. This ring of truths is there in each one of them, and you feel elevated through the study of these scriptures. This is called the superior, higher, spiritual, refined intelligence, as contradistinguished from the secular intellect. This is called the higher intelligence. The higher intelligence gives you a peep into the spiritual truths. So the prayer in the Gayatri is to awaken the superior higher intelligence. Dhiyo yo naf prachodayat. O the Supreme Brahman, symbolized and revealed as the light of consciousness, the symbolic in the sun, the effulgence. I have been so far wallowing in sensuality, eating and drinking and sensual pleasures. In the lower three chakras, awaken the higher consciousness in my heart and kindle this higher consciousness. Prachodayat means kindling, awakening the Dhi. And the Rishi in the Gayatri Mantra prays together, not individually. He does not say, awaken my Dhi, my intelligence. Awaken the Dhiya, the plural, the intelligences of all of us. Dhiyo yo naf prachodayat na asmakam, our intelligence. Awaken this intelligence so that all of us may be enabled, empowered to intuit these great spiritual truths, which will reveal to me the dimensions of this higher consciousness. It's one of the most sacred mantras, universal, no religious coloring, no Hindu coloring, universal. It says all of us should pray, Dhiyo yo naf prachodayat. You may be a Muslim, you may be a Christian, you may be a Jew, you may be a Hindu, you may be a Zoroastrian or a Parsi or a Sikh. It is a common prayer for everybody because it is in Sanskrit and the Vedas people think it is Hindu. No, it is universal. May our spiritual intelligences capable of revealing to us the spiritual truths in all the scriptures of religions, may this intelligence be awakened. Dhiyo yo naf prachodayat. Shandhya merges into Gayatri, and the essence of the Gayatri is Om. If you want one single syllable mantra, by chanting which you have chanted in principle the entire Vedas, it is Om. So Sri Ramakrishna says, Sandhya merges into Gayatri and Gayatri merges into Om. Om can be Saguna Brahman, called Apara Brahman, Brahman, the supreme reality with form and name, or it could be Nirguna Brahman without form, formless Brahman, the supreme Brahman, the Parabrahman. Sarve Veda Yat Padamamananti Tapamsi Sarvan Jayad Vadanti Yadichanto Brahmacharyam Charanti Tatte Padam Sangrahena Bravimi Om Ityetat. Kathopanishad. The spiritual teacher Yama, the Brahma Vidya Acharya, is teaching his dear disciple Nachiketa, the little boy. Oh Nachiketa, I will tell you the essence of all Vedas and what all the Vedas teach. And all the tapasya, the penances, austerities performed by spiritual seekers, what ultimately leads to, and desiring which the disciples go to the Guru, the teacher, live there a celibate life, controlling their senses, and meditate in the supreme consciousness. I will tell you what is that which is being aspired by all these people. It is Om. And Om is said to be the supreme, the most supreme mantra in the Vedas. It's called Rishabha. Yas Chandasa Rishabho Vishwarupaha. Vishwarupa it is all pervading. It is infinite dimensional. And it is the Rishabha of the Chandas. Chandas is the Vedas. It is the most supreme mantra in the Vedas. It is the essence and the core mantra in the Veda. This is the Taittiriya Upanishad. Yas Chandasam Rishabho Vishwarupaha. There also it says, Shrutam me Gopaya. May all that I have studied in spiritual life and secular life, please protect it. Gopaya, protect it. Through this awakened intelligence, may I be able to remember all these various scriptures which I have studied. Memory is not physiological. It is not cultivated as in secular studies. This is a superior memory which comes to you through the awakening of the Dhi. Whatever you study, whatever you think, it sticks to you, enters deep into your inner consciousness and transforms your character. This is the secret of the Vedas and the mantra. Gayatri leads to Om. Sri Ramakrishna says, Shandha Gayatri te loy hoy, Gayatri abar Omkare loy hoy. Sandhya merges into Gayatri, and Gayatri again merges into Om. गान सुनते सुनते ठाकुर हठात दंडायमान আর মার নাম করিতে করিতে সমাধিস্থ. The song was going on, Trailokanath Swarnal was singing, and when Sri Ramakrishna was listening to the song, as he was listening to the song, suddenly he got up and chanting the name of the Mother, Divine Mother, he entered into deep samadhi. That the picture which you see, where Sri Ramakrishna, this picture was taken at this time in Keshav Chandrasen's house. Hridayara Mukhopadhyay is supporting him, where his face is beaming with a divine smile. Those of you have seen that picture, you know, most of you have seen this definitely. You can see the divine smile of inexpressible joy, the spiritual happiness which is beaming through his luminous face. Eyes are half closed, and he is seeing some extraordinary and laughing to himself, overwhelmed by that supreme bliss. Ananda is the essence of Brahman. Ananda is the name of Brahman. Brahman, everything in the universe arises from Ananda, rests in Ananda, and goes back to Ananda, and that is Brahman. Anandadhyeva khal vimani bhutani jayante anandena jatani jivanti anandam prayante visambishanti. Taittiriya Upanishad. All the universe arises from Ananda, rests in Ananda, and goes back to Ananda. Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Brahman is Vijnana, the essence of higher consciousness, awareness, and Ananda. Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. So, Sri Ramakrishna particularly, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu earlier, and Sri Krishna much earlier, are Ananda Ghana Vigraha. They are the veritable embodiments of the joy of God consciousness. You can see Mahaprabhu singing and dancing always in bliss and Ananda. And Sri Ramakrishna all the time blissful, all the time smiling. There is not a trace of sorrow because he is a child of God. Remember this. Whenever you feel sorrowful, depressed, upset, think of the divine smile of Sri Ramakrishna, that extraordinary beaming countenance when he is in Samadhi. Dandayaman Mar Nam Kurite Kurite Samadhistho. And he is absorbed his own inner higher self. Think of that face, look at his face, we have a picture, and all sorrow will vanish. And you are the child of such a person. We are children of Sri Ramakrishna, who was absorbed in Samadhi, the bliss of Samadhi, Ananda Samadhi. What kind of Samadhi we do not know. How many varieties of Samadhi he experienced. Vedanta, Tantra, then Yoga. How many kinds of practices he went through. How many varieties of hundreds of realizations he had. And living like a simple child, he has come down to us, reaching us through and through, inspiring us, elevating us, leading us by the hand, and says, just think of me, that is enough. What more sadhana can you do? I have done everything for you, and I have given you pre-cooked food. Just eat it. You don't have to do anything else. Just think of me. And Sri Ramakrishna rarely used the word me and I. He used to say, there's this place in Bengali, Ekhankar. Ekhane. Ekhane means here. Think of this place. Think of me. You do not have to do anything else. This is one great assurance which Sri Ramakrishna has given us. Through Master Mahasaya M. So many times it is repeated in Srimad Darshan. M, Apostle and the Evangelist. It's a book in English. In Bengali, it's Sri Ma Darshan. By Nityatmananda, who was very closely associated with M. Sri Ramakrishna used to tell M, you don't have to do anything. Just think of me. Just a repetition of the shloka in the Gita. Mayyeva mana adhatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya nivasishyasi mayyeva ata urdhvam na samshaya. Mayyeva mana adhatsva. The entire mind you deposit on me. Mayi buddhim niveshaya. Let your entire intellect, intelligence come, be deposited and deeply, penetratively enter into me, Niveshaya, then I will release you. Towards the end, in the 9th chapter end and 18th chapter end, he says, these are the Sarva Guhya Tamam Bhuya Sriname Paramam Vachaha. O Arjuna, listen to the most supreme of all the secrets. Sarva Guhya Tamam Bhuya, again I tell you, because you are dear to me, Bhaktosime Sakha Cheti Rahasyam Hetaduttamam. What is that? Manmana abhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Manmana abhava. Your mind should be completely saturated with me, my presence, my name, my form, my awareness. Manmana abhava mad bhakto. Be my devotee. Be devoted to me. Completely pour your heart's love upon me. The whole world is crying for love. I feel so lonely. Great scholar, great professor of a university. So many awards and laurels he has obtained, but is craving for a little love. His laurels, his study, his research is not giving me joy. Love is equivalent to joy. Priyatva, dearness, is craving for company, craving for love. And the Lord says, pour your love upon me. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity except to love God and Him only to serve. Thomas A. Kempis, in the famous book, Imitation of Christ, he says this. Everything is a vanity, everything is absolutely useless in this world except loving God with all your heart and soul and serving Him, serving His children, serving the entire humanity and subhuman species. The whole universe is saturated by His divine presence. Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam Mitkincha Jagatyam Jagat. Serve Him, love Him. Manmana Bhava Madhbhakto Madhyaji. All the rituals you perform, all the sacrifices you do for my sake. Mam Namaskuru, bow down to me. That means be humble. Erase your ego. Sashtanga Namaskara, we say in Sanskrit, in Vedanta. Sashtanga. Ashtanga means 8 limbs. You fall flat. You may see people falling flat. It's called Dandavat Pranama. Danda means a stick. Just as a stick, if you drop it, simply falls to the ground. You throw yourself on the ground. Sashtanga. What are the 8 angas? They are described. When you fall on the ground, your 2 hands, your 2 feet, and your head, these 5, and manas, buddhi, and ahankara. Your mind, your intelligence or intellect, and your egoism. All these 8 you completely surrender to the God and say, Naham, Naham, Tuhu, Tuhu. Not I, O Lord, but Thou, but Thou. Mam Namaskuru. Namaskuru is not a mechanical prostration. It is surrendering yourself totally, completely to the supreme, majestic, the Lord of the universe, who is residing in your heart is your own self. This is the last teaching of Bhagavan Sri Krishna in the Gita, and this is the greatest of secrets. Think of me. What happens when you think of Him? Sri Ramakrishna is in that samadhi. Sri Ramakrishna is absorbed in the supreme Brahman, which is Nirguna, beyond all sensation, beyond all forms and names. And when he comes a little down, he plays with the mother Saguna. And when Sri Ramakrishna is merged in that infinite consciousness which is Brahman, if you think of him, you also can touch Brahman. This is a secret. Why Sri Ramakrishna's form is very special is because all the pictures of Ramakrishna taken so far, 3 of them, show Sri Ramakrishna to be the highest state of Samadhi. And the usual picture which is worshipped, Sri Ramakrishna himself put flowers on that picture and said, this is the highest state of Samadhi. This shows the highest state of yoga. Nirvikalpa Samadhi, we say, without understanding what it really means. So, Sri Ramakrishna is merged in that supreme consciousness of Brahman. That form, if you meditate upon, then that form is a kind of a window, as it were, through which you can peep into that supreme consciousness yourself. This is the secret. Why Ramakrishna's form is so special and chosen by the gurus in the Ramakrishna tradition to enable devotees to meditate upon is that this picture, this form, represents Brahman in the highest manifestation of consciousness, awareness. And anybody meditating upon this particular form of Ramakrishna will, in a sense, have the capacity to be able to peep into the supreme awareness of Brahman through the window which is Sri Ramakrishna himself. That is the secret. Sri Ramakrishna was all the time merged in the infinite. When he was in Nirvikalpa Samadhi for 6 full months, completely oblivious of the entire universe, except that one sadhu came and then constantly pushed him, awakened just a little and poured some food into him, except that he was just dead to the whole world for months after month. Then the Divine Mother, Bhavatarini Kali, Brahma Shakti, commanded him, Tui Bhavamukhe Thak, Tui Bhavamukhe Thak, Tui Bhavamukhe Thak, 3 times. On 3 occasions, 3 times he commanded him, you remain in a Bhava Mukha. Bhava Mukha is an extraordinary concept in Ramakrishna tradition, as explained by Swami Sharadananda-ji in his magnum opus, Sri Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga, which is a companion volume of Sri Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita. These are the 2 great source books. He explains the philosophical import, the spiritual import of the Bhava Mukha as the Mukha threshold of a Bhava. Bhava is becoming. Being and becoming are 2 things which we talk about. Being is just awareness, just you are. And becoming, you turn into the world of multiplicity. So between these 2, there is a threshold, the being and becoming. This threshold is called a Bhava Mukha. The Divine Mother commanded Sri Ramakrishna to remain in Bhava Mukha, so that at any time he can merge into the infinite and the absolute, the world of being, and just a switch this way, he can come to the world of becoming, interact with all of us, all the devotees, remaining all the time in Bhava Mukha and leading us through him to the door of Bhavamukha, to the infinite realm of supreme consciousness. This is the spiritual, philosophical, mystical secret of meditation on Sri Ramakrishna. When you meditate on him in the heart as instructed by the Guru, the Ramakrishna devotees, it is not his eyes or his feet or his face. These are only external. Try to penetrate through him and pass on, move on to that realm which is infinite in the absolute, in which he is merged. He is merged in that state. So if you enter into him even a little, emotionally, intellectually, deeply, feelingly, spiritually, if you are still more advanced, then you float along the current of Ramakrishna and move on to that absolute. A beautiful song composed by Swami Premishanandaji, in which he said, Ramakrishna Puta Ganga Brahmanande Dhai. The pure sacred Ganges, Ganga of Ramakrishna, is flowing towards Brahman, the infinite ocean of consciousness. So what do? You somehow get into this Ganges and float on it. Float on the current of Ramakrishna Ganga, and you will easily, happily, blissfully, smilingly, effortlessly reach the ocean of Brahman awareness. So simple. What sadhana can you do? The only sadhana which is prescribed for us is to think of Ramakrishna. Think of me. Manmana bhava, madhubhakto, madhyaji, mam namaskuru. Mayeva manadatsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya. How many times the Lord has repeated in the Gita. And if you do something, offer all them to me. Yat karoshi, yad ashnashi, yad juhoshi, dadasi, yat tapasyasi, kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Yat karoshi, whatever you do, yad ashnasi, whatever you eat, and yat tapasyasi, whatever tapasya austerities you do, offer them unto me. Whatever you offer, whatever you give, everything offer unto me. That means you have your being and doing, thinking, immersed in the consciousness of Ramakrishna. How do you do it? Just think of him. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, look at these immortal words, benefit by them, think of these words, meditate upon them, believe them. Shraddhasva, Tata, Shraddhasva. Ashtavakra Muni tells Janaka, Oh Janaka, my dear disciple, believe this, Shraddhasva. Oh my child, believe this, Tata. Affectionately the elder people call the younger ones as Tata. Tata means a grandfather. It also means a child. Shraddhasva, Tata, Shraddhasva, believe this. Lord's words cannot be disbelieved. He has promised us. What does he say? Think of me. Nothing else is required to be done by you. Just think of me. Whosoever thinks of me shall inherit my wealth, just as the children inherit the father's wealth. The patrimony, the Uttaradhikara. The father is a billionaire. So the son or the daughter automatically inherit all the wealth of the father. Whosoever thinks of me shall inherit my wealth, even as the children inherit the father's wealth. We are the children of the Lord. And M, the great apostle, the writer of the gospel, the recorder of the gospel says, you know what is his wealth? Jnana Bhakti viveka vairagya, shanti sukha, prema and samadhi. Do you want all this? All of us want. Just think of me. Think of him. আর কিচ্ছু তোদের করতে হবে না, শুধু এখানকার চিন্তা কর। যে এখানকার চিন্তা করে পিতার সম্পত্তি উত্তরাধিকার সূত্রে পৈতৃক সম্পত্তি যেমন পুত্র পুত্রী পায়, সেরকমভাবে আমার সমস্ত সম্পত্তি দিব্য আধ্যাত্মিক সম্পত্তি পাবে। মাস্টারমশাই বলছেন তারপরে তার সম্পত্তি কি জানো? জ্ঞান ভক্তি বিবেক বৈরাগ্য শান্তি সুখ প্রেম সমাধি। জ্ঞান ভক্তি, knowledge and devotion, viveka vairagya, discernment between the real and the unreal, eternal and the non-eternal, the permanent and the temporary, ephemeral. Vairagya, the supreme dispassion for the world, the capacity to be able to give up that which is unreal and get absorbed in what is real. Shanti Sukha, peace that passeth understanding, the supreme peace. And Sukha, the joy which has no parallel, which has no opposite. The supreme joy, which is not the opposite of sorrow, but the pure, unalloyed bliss of Brahman. Prema and Samadhi. Ecstatic, divine love and Samadhi, supreme, mystical, super sensuous absorption in the consciousness of Brahman. These are the wealth which we shall definitely, surely, undoubtedly, unambiguously inherit just by thinking of him. What a simple sadhana, spiritual practice Ramakrishna has given to us. Just look at his picture. You don't have to do anything. We can't meditate. Mind is restless. I feel unhappy. I feel happy. All kinds of thoughts come and crowd my mind. Just keep a picture of Ramakrishna, that smiling, divine smile. Look at him. Look at him. Deeply look at him. Close your eyes. Meditate. Again look at him. Open your eyes. Try to absorb his form into your heart. That's it, nothing else. And talk about him. When you come down and talk about it, when you open your mouth, do not talk about anything which is worldly. Talk about him, think of him. And when you meet devotees, fellow devotees, converse with him, discourse with them about God, about Sri Ramakrishna, about his Leela Prasanga, about his Kathamrita, about the Gita, about the Upanishads. Just this much can you not do? That's enough. Madchitta madgata prana bodhayantav parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Madchitta, those whose entire being and the mind and heart are given to me. Madgata prana, all the energies and prana are poured into me. Bodhayantav parasparam, they talk about me to one another. Kathayantascha mam nityam, they constantly converse about me, discourse about me, and find great delight. Tushyanticha, ramanticha, the great delight they talk about me, and they enjoy the bliss of God conversation, the bliss of God awareness. This much you do, that's all. Think of me. What does he give you? He gives you all his wealth. Through what? His wealth is kept in a chest, the great treasure. You have to open it with a key, and the Lord gives you that key. 10th chapter, 9th verse and 10th verse. What is that key? Buddhi Yoga. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. I give you Buddhi Yoga, a key which will open this chest. Satata Yuktanam, those who are constantly united with me, they find great delight in talking about me, thinking about me, meditating upon me, singing to me. So their whole being is absorbed in me. Satata Yuktanam, Pritipurvakam Bhajatam, with great love, affection, divine ecstatic bhakti. They worship me, they think of me, meditate upon me. Dadami, I give them what? Buddhi Yoga. The Buddhi Yoga is the key to the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita. The Buddhi Yoga is a faculty, higher faculty of intuition, the awakening of the Thi and Medha and farther. And through this Buddhi Yoga, you open the key, the treasure house, the chest, and you have all the wealth which you inherit from your divine beloved father and mother, Sri Ramakrishna. Open the chest and see, what treasure is that? Jnana, Bhakti, Viveka, Vairagya, Shanti, Sukha, Prema, Samadhi. Is pouring his wealth on you because you just thought of him, nothing else. What a simple spiritual practice the divine avatar has given us. Sri Krishna says in 10th chapter, 9th verse and 10th verse, which I quoted, Matchitta madgata prana vodayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam dushyanta charamanti cha. That is the practice prescribed for us. For us, his children, his devotees, this is all that is practiced. That is all that is prescribed for practice. Think of him, meditate upon him, talk about him, converse about him, and delight and be happy in his remembrance and his glory. That's all. And then he opens the treasure house through Buddhi Yoga, gives you everything. The same thing is repeated by Sri Ramakrishna now in Bengali. When he came as Sri Krishna, he spoke the Gita in Sanskrit, composed by Vedavyasa. Here he speaks in Bengali as recorded by M. M is our Vedavyasa. He records all this. শুধু এখানকার চিন্তা কর, আর কিছু করতে হবে না। যে এখানকার চিন্তা করে পিতার সম্পত্তি যেমন সন্তানেরা পায়, পুত্র পুত্রী পায়, তেমনি ভাবে আমার সমস্ত সম্পত্তি পাবে। আমার মাস্টারমশাই বলছেন, আমার তার সম্পত্তি কি জানো? জ্ঞান, ভক্তি, বিবেক, বৈরাগ্য, শান্তি, সুখা, প্রেম and samadhi. We are his children. We have the right to inherit all the wealth of Ramakrishna, provided we think of him, meditate upon him, and declare ourselves to be his children. I am his son. I am his daughter. And therefore I have a claim to his wealth. Proof? You show me? Succession certificate is necessary to be able to inherit the wealth. Parental wealth. Where is the succession certificate? I finally think that is a certificate when you filled up the form for initiation from the Guru. There you say, I deeply desire to get initiated in the Ramakrishna Parampara. Then the Guru signs, yes, he can be given initiation. That is a succession certificate that you show. Are you his child? Are you his son or daughter? Yes, come on, show. This is the certificate. Then you say, all right, go. All the wealth here is yours. Come, let us claim this great succession in the Ramakrishna Guru Parampara, Guru Sishya Parampara. We are his children. Swami Vivekananda wrote in the Hindu Dharma O Ramakrishna, the famous small piece in Bengali he wrote, and he ends by saying, We are His children. We are His disciples. We are His servants. And giving up vain doubt, let's now meditate upon Him, think of Him, and preach His glory by leading a pure, elevated, spiritually awakened life, loving all beings as children of the one supreme reality, and sarva bhuta hite rataha, always engaged in cultivating goodness and welfare of all the beings in the entire world. Our lives become blessed. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampadhritavigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.